Okay, we're going to move to item B, which is the authorization to accept and execute a stormwater capacity grant. And this is for action.
Committee members and council members. My name is Kristen Armitage. I am a water quality specialist in the Environmental Services Department within Public Works. And here today, I am here to discuss the authorization to accept and execute the Stormwater Capacity Grant. If it'll go. If it wants to go, there it goes. So, should the City Council authorize Public Works staff to accept and execute Ecology's Stormwater Capacity Grant? A little bit of background information. The Stormwater Capacity Grant is offered by the Department of Ecology every 2 years. So this grant would be for year of 2025 through 2027. The purpose of this grant is to help cities meet their national pollution discharge elimination system. We are in a phase 2 municipal stormwater permit. So this would help us and be awarded around $120,000 for the 2 years. So some of these uses for this grant, long list here, but some of those is public education and outreach. Some of these events is like Storing the Sound with Salmon, where we are involved in helping grow and release coho salmon, and this includes all of 4th graders within the Federal Way Public School System. So we have a huge event that happens in April to help educate how stormwater does affect the rearing and the growth of coho salmon and what we can do to protect those species for the future. We also have illicit discharge detection and elimination, so IDDEs. This is where we have complaints and or submissions from Ecology where we have discharges into our stormwater system where we need to figure out who did it, where it came from, and let's get this cleaned up before it ultimately impacts our creeks and our sound as well. And we also have source control program for existing development. And so this helps for us. We go out and inspect private and also public stormwater systems to make sure that we're not having anything sitting in those storm drains, so when a rain event does happen, we can get that cleaned out as soon as possible, again, before we have impacts from the pollution further on for aquatic species and whatnot, as well as for recreational sources like Steel Lake and North Lake, right? A lot of these outfalls go into these lakes, so we want to make sure we protect our citizens of the city and make sure our water is as clean as possible for everybody to enjoy it, especially now and in the future. So with this, the options to consider is 1, to approve the proposed authorization to apply for, accept, and execute the Stormwater Capacity Grant, and or option 2, do not approve the proposed authorization to provide direction to staff. And with this, the mayor's recommendation is option number 1, to accept the grant.
Councilmember Daniel?
Yeah, my only question on this one is this was not part of the original budget, is it?
That I do not know.
So the grant funding is included in the budget as grants, so it's not counted as revenue until the grant's awarded, but if you look at next year's budget, you will see a placeholder for an anticipated grant, yes.
Okay, and then what fund does this go into then?
It goes into a combination of the 401 Surface Water Fund and the 306 Surface Water CIP Fund.
Okay, thank you.
A question is, if the grant's not awarded, what happens to that budget line item?
Well, since it's shown as a grant revenue, it doesn't transpire until it is awarded effectively into actual revenue. It's shown as a projected grant, not as revenue. So it's included in the overall budget, if that makes sense. In the context, there's a separate, if you look at the revenues, there's separate lines, one of which is anticipated grants. So it falls on that line. So if we won, the grant is a reoccurring grant, so the likelihood of not getting it is extremely, extremely low.
Okay.
But effectively, if we do not get it, we're still obligated to do all the work.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. Do we have a grant writer, or is this your department doing all the writing of these grants?
You're looking at the person that wrote this one.
All right. Well, congratulations. I hope it comes through. Thank you.
Okay.
So we don't have a grant writer that you know of?
Public Works has never been involved with the grant writer program, so I'm actually not sure what the status of that is.
Okay.
Public Works is, since the get-go of that program under Tanya, We have had a track record of, because our grants are mostly
Right.
technical, we have retained that within Public Works throughout the duration of that. So I'm not exactly sure what the status of that is, but we're not involved in it.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed authorization to accept and to execute the stormwater capacity grant to the September 16, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item C, the resolution 2026-2027 solid waste recycling grant approvals.
Sorry. Good afternoon, committee members and council members. My name is Rebecca Kovar. I am the contract coordinator for the environmental services in Public Works. The matter before you is approval of to apply for 2 grants coming out of King County for the 2026-2027 cycle. The policy question is, should the city apply for grants, enter into related interlocal agreements, and allocate funding for implementation of related solid waste and recycling projects per the proposed resolution? So, some background information. For over 20 years, the City of Federal Way has received grants from King County and the Washington Department of Ecology to fund recycling, waste reduction, and education, and disposal of moderate hazardous waste. Since the start of the pandemic, the city has focused on small recycling and paper shredding events and educational workshops, frequently engaging with community groups to expand the reach of services and educational opportunities. And more details about grant funding and projects can be found in the staff report. This is an approximate amount that will be awarded. We will not have final amounts until we find out whether or not other municipalities have rejected funds. If that's the case, King County will redistribute the funds to those municipalities that have accepted the money. This is a non-competitive grant. It is based solely on our demographics. Some of our grant funding projects have been recycling and shredding events, residential and community outreach for education on how to handle things such as the change in the organics management that are several laws that have come out of Olympia. So we help businesses and community members figure out how to comply with those new laws. We do upstream waste reduction, which is we tell people how to throw away less in the long run and reuse or recycle more items. We do culturally relevant outreach. We have a wide number of languages spoken in this community, and we try to reach everyone so that our efforts are uniform across the board. And our social media communications, which gets everybody to actually come to those events and workshops. And the funds have, we have also partnered with community organizations such as El Centro de la Raza, Fusion, and the Refugees Artisan Initiative, so that increases our outreach to different communities and makes sure that everyone has a chance to participate. The options considered are approve the proposed resolution or do not approve the proposed resolution and provide direction to staff. The mayor's recommendation is to approve the proposed resolution. I'm open for any questions.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Same question on this one for the grant. Was it part of the budget? And if this grant doesn't come through, do we still do those programs, or do those programs only tied to the grant funding?
So this grant goes into the 106 fund, which is the solid waste restricted revenue. It's the same answer, so it's an anticipated grant. So it's not counted as direct revenue, but it is assumed that we will, because this is a non-competitive grant, similar to the other ones, it's assumed we'll get it, but it is on a separate grant line item in the budget. If we do not receive this funding, this one's a little bit different than the SWIM, just from the context of the NPDS permit covers the requirements around surface water. The requirements for this program are not obviously governed by our surface water permit. So we do have obligations. There's an echo in here. We do have obligations around solid waste as part of the utility. And am I the only one hearing that?
I turned my mic off just in case.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not going insane. So we do have permits, or permit requirements as part of other programs, especially around hazardous waste control. That does fund a lot of this work. So some of the work we would absolutely have to continue. Some of the other work is stuff that has huge benefits to the community, but we would have to stop.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Council President?
Well, I have to apologize. I'm still looking for, the amount of the grant was how much again?
If, allow me? Yeah, 53 and 109, but again, those are preliminary figures only. We will not get the final figures until after the application process.
So 109 plus 53.
Yeah,
So 100,
roughly
$160,000.
$160,000.
thank you,
And that will go over a 2-year period.
thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed resolution to the September 16, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to item D, which is the 21st Avenue South at 320th Street signalization and pedestrian improvements. Authorizations to enter a tender agreement. Mr. Mulkey.
Thank you, Chair Dovey, council members, committee members. I'm John Mulkey. I'm a senior civil engineer for the City of Federal Way, and I am bringing out the 21st Avenue South at South 320th Street signal and pedestrian improvements authorization to enter a tender agreement. Let's see, slideshow. So the policy question. Should the council approve the city to enter into a tender agreement with the Old Republic Surety Company for the 21st Avenue South at South 320th Street signalization and pedestrian improvements project? Background information. Construction of the project was awarded to Rain City Services in January 2024, and a notice to proceed date was given in July to allow them to procure materials in 2024 with 110 working days to complete the work. They ended up not even beginning work until August 7th, and with construction, and they were not on site on a consistent daily basis and not complete the work within the prescribed amount of working days, which would have finished in July 30th of 2025. So the city ended up terminating the contract on July 11th per the specifications in the facts that they didn't have the sufficient skilled workers to handle the work. They failed to prosecute the work to ensure that it was done on time. They disregarded direct orders from the authority of the engineer and also employed subcontractors without submitting proper documentation. And in completion of the work. So to complete the work, the city, since the termination of the contract, we've been working with the bonding company. And there was two choices, either to direct the bonding company to take over the contract and hire a contractor on their own, or to enter into an agreement with the bonding company to tender the contract to the city to allow the city to contract directly with a new contractor to complete the work. With the second option, the city will continue to work with the bonding company to acquire previous purchased materials from the original contractor. And city staff and the bonding company agreed the quickest way to get into a contract is to tender the contract. The bonding company conducted their own solicitations for bids, and the city intends to select BES Electrical Service with their agreement for the remainder of the work for the bonding company solicitation. And in addition to ensuring the contracts are completed by the city's satisfaction, the bonding company will be required to cover other engineering, inspection, and administrative costs that resulted from the original contractor delays. So if you look at our budget, we are still, even with the delays and everything else, we are within budget. We have, what's changed up on this from our original thing basically is construction contract paid to Rain City, the construction's contract completed and unpaid, and construction contract to BES of 123, and then a contingency of $80,000 we're adding into that in case anything comes up We want to be able to ensure that we don't have to come back to the council for anything comes up that we're not aware of that didn't show up when we did our cost to complete on the work. But there is plenty of budget in the remaining budget to complete the work without coming back for any more funds. So the options considered are to approve the city to enter into a tender agreement with Old Republic Surety Company, or do not approve the city to enter into a tender agreement with Old Republic Surety Company and provide direction to staff. And Mayor recommends option 1, and I'm available for questions.
Council President?
Would you remind me again, you've got 305,000, excuse me, put my glasses on, 305,000 from LIFT funds. Remind me again how that works.
So LIFT is Local Infrastructure Financing Tool, which is a tool that the city entered under Tim Johnson and Marwan a number of years ago that basically reimburses us $1 for $1 spent on infrastructure within a certain geographic area. So the funding is restricted, what it can be used for, but effectively when we spend $1, the state gives us $1 to spend on another project. So we've accumulated some money for that purpose, and part of it is being used for this. So this is a match from a previous project that funds additional infrastructure in the downtown area within the right-of-way.
Yeah, excuse me, that's what I was remembering was for the downtown core. But
And
this
this is inside that area. It's inside the geographic area.
It's 320 and
And 21st
21st
South.
Avenue South, so right at the Panera Bread.
Oh, there it is. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh?
With the Rain City, had we worked with them previously?
Well, we had entered into a contract with them contiguous to this one that they were working on. We had not, it was the second time they had bid on a project. They had been awarded a project about 3 or 4 months earlier, maybe for a crossing project somewhat similar. But we had not had experience with them to this point to know what it was going to be like.
With the new contractor, have we worked with them before?
BES used to be Amaya Electric. They were taken over, and we have worked on multiple projects in the past. They, the owner decided to retire. Nobody in their family wanted to pick it up, and they ended up going under this and being picked up by this other corporation. They're actually still working with a lot of the same people who worked in that company before. So we do have experience working with them on
So
multiple projects.
more of a known quantity then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great.
Councilmember McDaniel?
My first one's a legal question. What does the term tender mean in this situation?
Yeah, so essentially, normally, or in, the surety's on the hook, usually, the bonding company, to complete this type of work. In this situation, they're instead tendering us essentially a third-party company to do the work that the city's going to directly enter into a contract with. That was, if you remember back in the presentation, there was option 1, which is the surety hires the company and finishes the work. Option 2 is essentially the surety tenders a contractor to the city. The city contracts directly with that contractor. That's what's going on here. The surety is saying, we're not directly going to control this. We're going to tender this contract to the city. You, city, can then enter into a contract with the third-party contractor.
So is it pretty much they pay for the bills, but they're keeping hands off and letting us choose and go with the people we'd like to work with?
At a simple level, yes, that's exactly right.
I like the simple.
Yeah.
The second question I had is just real quick. Underneath the project available fundings, you have bonding company mitigation at $100,000. Does that mean that we are budgeting $100,000 for mitigation, or is that what we've already spent?
That's money that we're expecting to receive from the bonding company for mitigation of the work that I was talking about with
Okay.
extra costs for us. If we incurred, since we're not able to apply liquidated damages, because typically if a project goes over days, we're allowed to add liquidated damages, and this would be to cover administrative costs beyond the time of the contract. So since January, the time that we put in, it's going to cover our city costs for that work that we would typically get back on liquidated damages.
Gotcha. I just realized it was under funding and I got those confused. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So I was going to ask about the tendering question, but so there are 2 things to vote on for this. One is to allow the the tender. And the second item is to vote on awarding the contract.
Yeah, and I have another presentation right following for this one, for that one.
So did we vote as the council to terminate this contract with Rain City?
No.
No.
We don't have to do that?
No, that's something that so council authorized the initial Public Works contract. The initial Public Works contract gives the engineer, i.e. Public Works, the authority to terminate the contract.
Okay.
So in other words, you guys essentially authorized the engineer to terminate the contract when you passed the first Public Works contract.
And so when do we expect the work to be done?
We're trying to get that done as soon as possible. We want to get it done before the Christmas season to get this work completed, this fall, or, before they shut down in November at Thanksgiving, and we want to get everything completed before then.
So the work will continue until it's done, correct?
Correct.
Because if light rail does open on December 6th, it would be very beneficial to have this working.
Oh, for sure, yes, absolutely. That's we're trying, that's our goal is to get that done prior to that.
Okay, thank you.
The question I have is, we terminated this contract, they didn't perform. It looks like we get $100,000 for damages from the security people who bonded it. Is whatever their name is, Rain, were they even? Are we even with them? Do we owe them money? Do they owe us money? What's happening with the old contractor?
Well, that's what's if you look at the budget here, and line right there, right now, completed and unpaid to Rain City, we have $217,602.47 that they've completed that we owe, that we'd have to pay through the bonding company to get that back to
So
them.
when do they get paid?
I'm not exactly sure how that operates.
I mean, their
but-
cash flow,
That's-
again,
It's
they
part of the
probably did
process.
something, it's
So
not
that-
acceptable, but their cash flow is probably crunched if we owe
So-
them 217.
Absolutely.
You're 100% right. That is between them and the bonding company, not the city, though. So the bonding company holds that as an asset against Rain City for completion of the work against the bond. So that, unfortunately, while you're probably correct, that's not the city's place to get involved in that. That's between the bonding company and Rain City when that funding, if at all, gets released to Rain City.
Right, but the bonding company, they did some work for us, they did some money.
We
I
have-
mean,
we
if
have-
somebody's owed 217,000, I mean, do we tell the bonding company we're moving forward, we're even, make sure they get paid? Or are
So
we
the
just washing our
bonding
hands of it?
company has a lot of claims against Rain City since they pulled the bond. So whether or not the claims from the bonding company outweigh 217,000 or not is something between the bonding company and Rain City that the city is not a part of.
Do we-
So we pay the bonding company, whether or not Rain City gets paid is between them. And part of that will be Rain City demonstrating a release of liens from all their subcontractors and making sure that they have actually paid everyone that they were supposed to the satisfaction of the bonding company. So,
But are we open to a future lawsuit?
no.
I mean,
that's all- no, that's
we
part-
have a hold harmless and everything as we move forward, that
So it's,
the bonding company will defend us if we get sued for
so that's part of the bond. It's
Isn't that the basic purpose of it?
Yeah, correct. It's not a hold harmless agreement, but effectively that is a function of the bond, is to indemnify the city to make it so that basically the bonding company is on the hook to be the city's agent to interact and have all of those conversations and take legal action as needed and to defend the city because their client defaulted on the project.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Honda?
Is Rain City still operating as a company?
Yes.
And can we, with our experience, if another jurisdiction were to ask us our experience, can we tell them our true experience with them?
Yeah. We can be honest with another company or with another city, absolutely. We have to be.
So then the other city, even if they had the best numbers, the other city could refuse to allow them to work, to give them the contract based on what we would tell them?
I don't want to speculate entirely, but it's likely that the other city would be able to deem them not a responsible contractor and therefore not award it to them on that basis.
How often do we terminate contracts like this?
This is the first time that I've been involved with a contract termination at the city, and I've been here since 2000, so not very often.
Not very often.
You've been here a long time, congratulations. All right, okay, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yes, I move to forward the approval of the city to enter into a tender agreement with Old Republic Surety Company for the 21st Avenue South and South 320th Street signalization and pedestrian improvements to the September 16, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll go now to 21st Avenue South at 320th Street signalization and pedestrian improvements. Authorization to award, Mr. Mulkey.
All right, and I'll move forward with this one. Again, 21st Avenue South 320th Street signal and pedestrian improvements authorization to award. And the policy question is, should the council award the remaining work for the 21st Avenue South at South 320th Street intersection improvements to BES Electrical Services LLC? Selection of the contractor, just to run through this quickly again, the bonding companies requested estimates from each of the firms to complete the work. The bonding company determined the best price for completion was the work from the BES Electrical Services of Tacoma, and the city reviewed those costs and determined them to be reasonable to complete the work. Staff believe awarding the work to BES Electrical Services will complete the work quickly with the lowest cost. The remaining work is mainly labor to install equipment that was purchased by the previous contractor. And again, this is the same budget I just showed you as the last budget. It's operating under the same amount. And so our options considered here are award the remaining work for the 21st Avenue South at South 320th Street intersection improvements to BES Electrical Services LLC in an amount of $123,203.22, and approve a contingency of $80,000 for a total of $203,203.22, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Or two, do not award the remaining work for the 21st Avenue South at South 320th Street intersection improvements to BES Electrical Service and provide direction to staff. And the mayor recommends option one, and I'm available for questions.
I see no questions. Do I have a motion?
I move to forward the award of the remaining work for the South 320th Street signalization and pedestrian improvements to BES Electrical Services LLC to the September 16, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll now move to item F.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mulkey. Countywide Growth Center application.
Good evening. Good evening, LUTC Chair Dovey and Committee Member Walsh and City Council President Kochmar and City Council members. I'm Lucy Sloman, Special Projects Planner in Community Development, and I'm here to talk about the Countywide Growth Center resolution. So the policy question is, should the city adopt a resolution regarding the submittal of the Countywide Growth Center application to King County? CGC is the abbreviation for Countywide Growth Center. The black line shown on the map is the area of the CGC. This is 348th or Highway 18. Pacific Highway runs on the west side. Here's 356th and Enchanted Parkway. Down here is Todd Beamer High School. And you may be more familiar with this as the South Station sub-area than Countywide Growth Center. So, I think, there. So just to give you a little background, in December 2021, the King County Growth Management Planning Council designated us as a candidate CGC. And then at the end of last year, in November and December, you unanimously approved the South Station sub-area plan and the comprehensive plan, which included a centers chapter. Both of those documents included implementation actions to happen in the next few years. June of this year, Sound Transit Board announced their preferred light rail route and station location. I'll show you a map of where the station location is. October 1st of this year, we're supposed to submit our application to be a countywide growth center. So the distinction is whether we're a candidate growth center or a full countywide growth center. So why do this? The county asked us to have you reconfirm your support for the submittal. You have done that multiple times. You've reviewed and improved the South Station sub-area plan. You've reviewed and approved the comprehensive plan, including the centers chapter, but they want sort of an official statement. And the benefits to us is that we can apply for transportation grants from the Puget Sound Regional Council. If we don't have that designation, we can't do that. So some of the associated actions that come out of the comprehensive plan centers chapter and the sub-area plan are that we have certain kinds of visions and actions that we have committed that we will pursue as a result of those plans being approved. And so our next steps will be, once we get this application into King County, is to go back to the community to continue the conversations about the kind of code changes and rezones that we've talked with you all about along the way, and which will support that countywide growth center designation. And just as a by the way, this black dot is where the preferred station location is, and it is just south of 352nd. So again, the policy question is, should the city adopt a resolution regarding the submittal of the application to King County? If not, please give us feedback as to what you would like us to do. The mayor recommends approval of the resolution.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, can you go back to the previous, the one with the map? Yeah.
This one?
Quick question. What is the difference between the, I mean, it looks like there's the yellow line there and then the kind of orangey sort of line. I mean, what's the,
Yes,
what's
totally
the?
fair. The green line around the outside is the sub-area. So the orange line is the countywide growth center. And then the yellow line is the Transit-Oriented Development District, or TOD district. So in working with the county on getting the candidate designation, this was the final boundary, the orange boundary that was agreed to with the county. That included land that was likely to develop or redevelop in the future. But we felt that there were areas like the Spring Valley Open Space, the Todd Beamer High School that were not going to redevelop, but that which would lead to a more complete neighborhood. So we included those in the sub-area. The TOD district, which is the yellow line, is kind of our phase one. That is where we're starting, where we will have conversations with the community about possible rezones and see where that leads us.
Okay. Now on that, it looks like that just right there, just barely to the southwest of the preferred station is where the TOD line is. It seems like that it would be further, I mean, the TOD would be, go down, at least down to 356 there instead of jogging up close to the station.
I think that was in reaction to some of the property owner concerns that were expressed when we were doing the public process for the sub-area plan.
Is that where the engineering firm was? It okay?
Yes.
All right.
And
Okay.
so that will be an opportunity that we have to, as part of sending notices to property owners and having conversations with the community of thinking about what their desires are.
Okay.
Now that the station has been located on their property, they may feel differently about having it rezoned.
Okay. So the TOD area is something that's subject to revision then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sounds great.
Before you go, Councilmember Seffa Dawson just informed me she's been on Zoom, but she joined as an attendant. So could she be promoted? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Honda. Welcome, Lydia. Councilmember McDaniel.
Thank you. First one, we have following on Councilmember Walsh's. So when you chop out that section from the TOD, what would be the purpose of chopping that out? Instead, like I said, because I know exactly where that spot is, so 356, what would be the benefit to not having that part of the TOD?
This area here,
Correct.
I think we were just trying to be sensitive to the concerns that were raised by that property owner when the sub-area plan was going through, and concerns that they had about changes to their property.
Was
because this ours.
that DBM?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let's
And
make
that
sure
was our phase one, sort of where our first set of actions we proposed to take place. So I think we were trying to be respectful of the concerns that they raised at the time. At this point, as I said, we're gonna go back out and have conversations, and given what's happening with Sound Transit and the fact that the board has identified their property, that may be a different kind of discussion.
Okay. I'll be curious on that one in the future. My second one is, I noticed that one of the main reasons you're doing this is for funding from the Puget Sound Regional Council. What kind of funding opportunities do they present us if we do get this designation?
It allows us to apply for transportation grants, and that, because it's Public Works that applies for those grants, I would defer to Public Works if you have additional questions about the kinds of grants that they might choose to apply for.
Is there anything that we're kind of looking for, trying to hit up if we get this, or is it just an opportunity if it arises?
So we use PSRC funding for a lot of different projects, mostly around congestion relief and capacity, but it runs the full gamut. So it includes everything from pedestrian access projects through like capacity, whether that's signals or lanes. There's a couple different ways to handle that. But PSRC is the gateway effectively to most federal funding in Washington State. So that's really kind of what we're talking about is the federal pass-through money.
Got it. And the priority, is the priority for the city, or is it just for this, strictly this area?
What do you mean by priority?
Well, it says the city will receive priority in funding decisions, so I assume that if we do this and have this designation, that it'll actually take us up on a list, something like that, instead of being like the 10th position, will be like the 7th position or something? Is that incorrect? It's underneath the financial impact.
Are you looking at the screen, or are you?
I think it may, Councilmember McDaniel may be referring to, in the staff memo, it does say will receive priority funding in funding decisions, and I think that would be just associated with the Countywide Growth Center, not necessarily citywide, because by being a Countywide Growth Center, I think they recognize that there's a transition that's taking place in that area, and so therefore there may need to be financial supports for the kind of projects that will help in that transition.
Because the area, that designated area is what the potentially is priority is for that designated area. It's not for just the city in general.
That's my understanding.
Good understanding. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Council President?
So you're saying right now that DBM is now going to be left out of the TOD area? In other words, they're going to remain as is?
This was our proposal last year, almost a year ago, based on the comments that we had received from DBM. We are happy to talk to them, and we, not only will we be happy to talk to them, we plan to talk to them and notify them that these activities are going on. Some of their property, such as right here, is in the TOD. Some of their property is not in the TOD. So I think the comment that was made earlier is this was our initial plan. We have the ability to have conversations in the community and with the council, and then decide which properties we're going to propose for
Okay.
the reset.
Yeah, to be clear, Council President, it is entirely within council's authority to move that yellow line to include
Okay.
that property.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that that was still on the table. So exactly, with the proposed station, preferred station, exactly what piece of land is that sitting on? Because that's an area in there, it's kind of murky in my mind.
So it is so let me just say, this was not the most exact location for my little thing that I put on there. But it is right now predominantly on DBM property. And they have 2 parcels. But it also, as they have shown it, impacts that eastern building of the self-storage. And so we haven't had those conversations. That is for them to have a conversation with property owners. But I'm expecting that they are showing impacts to both DBM, both properties that DBM owns, as well as the eastern storage building.
So when you say TOD area, are you talking about the possibility of having more apartments in that area?
The whole area that we're showing as our phase 1, this yellow line, is the proposal is to be mixed use. So there could be retail and commercial uses on the ground floor. There could be condos or apartments upstairs.
So they're actually going to buy lots, is what you're saying? Sound Transit?
Sound Transit's property is for the station and parking and the facilities that they need to operate the station. Right now, they are not, we're just in early discussions with them. We do not know exactly whether they're proposing surplus properties as they have
Okay.
at the downtown station.
Okay, and one last question. Are they also, because they're coming over from Walmart, are they actually taking out Sherry's at the same time? The old Sherry's restaurant?
I don't remember that part of the route.
It's still being adjusted, so there's, it may or may not, we don't know yet.
And Denny's, is that going to also, what's happening with that one?
I haven't seen Denny's taken out.
So if you can see the screen, I'm going to very crudely kind of draw that. I think it's kind of coming through here and coming down and then down. Could you see
So-
my mouse on the?
Well, I actually don't know where Denny's is on your map, so I'm just
Oh,
trying to figure
okay.
out whether,
It's right there. See where the brown and the green is?
Denny's would be right.
It's on,
Right
it's
there.
on the other side.
so it is taking out Denny's? You don't know?
I cannot I cannot
Okay.
say specifically
Oh, okay.
which buildings because they are still adjusting the route.
Can Kent shed any more light on that, or? Sorry about that.
This Kent.
They're actually going to remodel. They're going to remodel.
So in all the preliminary plans I've seen, they have not gone in that location to
Oh,
touch
okay.
Denny's. They're a little further to the east.
I think that Denny's would be very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, Councilmember Honda, or
Thank you.
Council President, you should have another question, sorry.
No, sorry.
Okay, Councilmember Honda?
so what other cities have this designation of a county-wide growth center? Does Auburn or Kent or Renton, do you know?
I believe that there are like 40 cities that have candidate countywide growth center designations. So they are, my understanding of the process is that they did not have any of these until we started working in '21, and that now that's why they've given us the time from 2021, when they made the designations, to now to do the kind of planning and studies that we needed to show them that we are able to comply with the criteria that have been established. And my understanding is that they're 40, but I apologize, I don't know
Okay.
them all off the top of my head.
No problem. So when all this development occurs, what is happening with the roundabout that was going to go in right over there by Lowe's? The state was going to put it in?
I think we're still planning for that. We understand that that is still a project on the state's books, but it doesn't have a timeline as far as I know. I don't know if EJ has more information.
Does it have funding still?
Lucy had the correct answer. So the funding got moved to a couple of their other projects. It is still on the docket to be built, but the funding is just listed as future biennium right now.
So does this help, this countywide growth center designation, does that help the state get funding for this project, the roundabout?
I mean, ultimately at that level, the funding is it's whether or not it gets included in the state adopted budget. So it certainly doesn't hurt, to be fair, especially when we're talking to different electeds to say like, hey, we need this in support of a designated center. That's definitely a positive. I don't know, at the end of the day, like I said, this is WashDOT and combination of the cities lobbying elected officials saying, hey, we really need this project to get funded. Please include it in the state's, capital budget. Whether or not that sways opinion or not is a little bit of a guess.
Okay. And has Sound Transit started talking to DBM about their property and what will happen to it?
My guess is no, but I don't actually.
Yes, they have.
Oh, they have? Okay, great.
So are they helping DBM find another location? Or do they have to wait till they actually buy the property?
They're not that far yet in the process. They have started conversations with DBM, but they're not that far they will get to that point. It's not that far in the process yet. They have to get through the EIS process or get FTA approval for early acquisition before they can do either of those.
Is the city working with DBM to try to keep them in the city?
We have met with DBM. At this point, it's still a little bit early in the process. Like I said, Sound Transit needs to get a little bit further and/or get FTA approval. There's no funding that can come from Sound Transit yet until one of those two actions happen. So yes, we've talked to DBM. Yes, I think it's been conveyed that there's an interest in keeping them local. However, we can't really do much until there's actually funding to progress the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
One last question. It would seem to me that if the Sound Transit station is projected to be on part of DBM's property, and we're not including all their property into the TOD zone, I mean, we're kind of making, this should be all or nothing, in my opinion. If they're going to take half their property, let's put the other half into the zone. I mean, it just seems like that would be a smarter decision or a fairer decision. I don't know. Is there any reason why we split it, other than that's where we drew the line?
So I think, and kind of to restate something that Holly said before, so the yellow line was drawn in council approvals before the preferred alternative was selected.
Yeah.
So maybe at that point, it made sense for the line to be where it currently is shown, but maybe now conditions have changed to the point where it should be moved, because now we have a preferred alternative that we didn't have before.
I mean, if they use all their land now, I mean, giving them half of it, buying half and leaving the other half to be an island doesn't make sense.
So, I agreed. The way we have shown it on this plan does not affect Sound Transit's decisions.
No, I get that. but-
And I think that we've talked about some of the benefits and drawbacks of some of these changes. And I think if DBM is willing to have their property rezoned, we're happy to include both pieces of their property. I'm
Okay.
just not sure that they felt that way a year ago.
Can somebody give them a phone call before we vote on this in 2 weeks, or whatever it is?
This does not affect what we're doing.
Okay, well, once you put the line the way it is, we vote on it, say, yeah, we're approved, we want to approve to do what, become a zone, and you got a line that doesn't have all the property in it, that all of a sudden then becomes a different, tougher decision later to change it, doesn't it?
So the line that the county cares about is the orange line.
Oh, okay.
And that's the one you guys are going to be voting on
Okay,
as part of this item.
So we ignore the yellow line, we're talking about the orange.
Yellow line is currently existing.
Got it, okay. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed resolution to the September 16, 2025 City Council consent agenda for approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and I look forward to when we come back and move the yellow line.
Heard loud and clear.
Okay, item G, an ordinance, a development agreement code amendment. Mr. Leon.
Well, good evening, committee members and council members. My name is Andrew Leon, and senior planner, and I'll be discussing the development agreement code amendment. So the policy question is, should the city council adopt the proposed code text amendment to Title 19 of the Federal Revised Code relating to development agreements? So as a little background, the purpose section for our development agreement chapter, which is located in Federal Revised Code, Chapter 19.85.010. Development agreements are intended to provide flexibility and predictability while also providing public benefits to the city of equal or greater value than relative to the departure provided. However, the purpose statement doesn't provide guidance about what types of features we would generally consider to be acceptable as public benefits. So we have kind of two parts to this amendment. Part one is kind of addresses that problem, which is an addition of a non-exhaustive list of public benefits that we commonly see and would generally accept, and those do include ownership opportunities for multifamily projects, public open space, affordable housing, connections to multimodal transportation, and also public right-of-way improvements that exceed code requirements. The second portion of the amendment is an update to a separate section. This is more of a housekeeping amendment to a different part of the chapter 19.85.030, basically to match a definition in our code to the definition as it is in the RCWs. Right now, basically, there's two subsections there that have kind of got aggregated into one. We're just planning on splitting that out, so it's kind of a verbatim match of the RCW. So this is a brief summary of our adoption process. Went through a planning commission public hearing on August 20th. Today we're at the LUTC Council Committee. Hopefully we can go to first reading on September 16th with second reading and adoption on October 7th. These are the criteria for development regulation amendments. This is kind of addressed in the staff report I included in the packet. As far as council action, this is just kind of a brief summary of what you can do. You can either approve it, modify and approve it, disapprove it, or refer it back to the planning commission for additional proceedings. And planning commission did recommend approval, as did the mayor. So open it up to questions.
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, would this impact development agreements that are currently in process right now, or would it be future ones?
It would be future ones, and honestly, it probably wouldn't affect them in any meaningful way either. This is just sort of a clarification of what we expect to see. You know, people can recommend other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, seeing no questions, do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to first reading on September 16, 2025.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll now go to ordinance number H, Title 18 Middle Housing Code Cleanup Amendments.
Good evening, Chair Dovey, Council President Kochmar, and committee members. My name is Holly Bozak. I'm the planning manager, and I am here to talk to you again about middle housing. Just to clarify, these are just cleanup items tonight. We do not have any new standards that we're proposing to add to the code. In using the standards that have recently been adopted, we've realized that some of them need some clarity, and so that is what I'm bringing to you tonight. It is a two-process presentation tonight. We have a presentation on Title 18 and action and presentation on Title 19 and action. If you would like me to wait till the end of 18 and 19 and get to the action and questions at the time, we can do so, or I can do one at a time, however you would prefer.
Let's do them one at a time so we have the consistency.
Sure. The policy question this evening for Title 18 is, should the City Council adopt the proposed text amendments to the Federal Way Revised Code Title 18 related to cleanup of the recently adopted middle housing standards? And a bit of background to give you just as a reminder of the conversations that we had related to middle housing and unit lot subdivisions. These come from House Bill 1110 that was passed by the state legislature in 2023. And it was to require cities and counties to amend standards to allow 4 to 6 units of middle housing in predominantly residential use zones. The goal of staff efforts was to include standards within the code to include provisions for middle housing and unit lot subdivisions. Middle housing includes up to 6 dwelling units compatible in scale, form, and character with single-family houses and contains 2 or more attached or clustered homes. And as you might remember, examples of middle housing are cottage housing, townhouses, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and courtyard apartments for middle housing standards in Federal Way. And to remind you what unit lot subdivisions are, it is a type of subdivision process that is for residential development where a unit and the land underneath the unit is owned. So there are some minor amendments that we are proposing to make. In Title 18, we only have one proposed amendment, and that is provided here. In 18.55.060, open space and recreation, we want to clarify that unit lot subdivisions is also included in the first part there, so it will read as all residential subdivisions except for subdivisions of 6 or fewer lots, and unit lot subdivisions shall be required to provide usable open space. The adoption process is outlined here. We had SEPA determination at the beginning of August. We had the Planning Commission public hearing August 20th, LUTC this evening, and first reading will be hopefully on September 16th with a second reading on October 7th. The criteria outlined here, these proposed amendments are consistent with the applicable provisions of the comprehensive plan, bear a substantial relationship to public health, safety, or welfare, and are in the best interest of the residents of the city. Your policy options tonight: number 1, adopt the proposed ordinance for amendments to Title 18. Number 2, do not adopt the proposed ordinance and provide direction to staff. Recommendation: the Planning Commission has recommended approval, and the mayor has recommended option number 1 as well, adoption. Are there any questions?
I'll let Council President go first.
Real quick, because we've talked about this before. So we have 4 to 6 units per lot, but what do we do about parking?
So this evening, we are not talking about anything but clarifying the code standards that have been adopted by the council with the middle housing conversation. We cannot provide any strict standards that would be stricter than those applied to single-family development. So those discussions happened over the course of the middle housing adoption process. These standards put forth tonight are simply to clarify intent.
So at some point, I think we need to have that discussion, though.
Yeah, I have a question. If we had 6 units on a lot, are we saying they're setting aside 600, 900 square feet? 150 per lot or per housing unit?
The size that is allowed to be permitted is down to 1,150 square feet per unit.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I'm talking about the set
Open
aside of
space,
the
yeah.
150 green space, I think.
Yeah, sure. Let me step back and just broadly tell you what the clarification here is, and I think that'll make things clear. So the reason we're clarifying this is because before, it appeared as if the city could double dip for open space. We would require open space in the first original classic subdivision.
Yeah.
And then again require open space when you unit lot subdivided. In other words, require open space 2 times.
Yeah.
That's clearly not what council or staff intended with that language. So what this says is, basically, the city doesn't require any open space for unit lot subdivisions. It only requires open space when it's a classic subdivision.
Okay, so we're not telling somebody that if they take their lot and re-subdivide it to 6, that they have open space.
That's exactly right. We're saying you don't have to
Okay.
provide any open space in that
Because
situation.
I guess my point was, we have an assessment of $2,000 a door, or whatever the ratio is. I thought that's one of the reasons why we did that.
Indeed. Yep.
So this is saying you can be dense, you don't have to make a garden space of 150 square feet, because you're already paying for it with the 2,000 or whatever the money is based on the square footage.
Or you paid for it with your initial 50-lot subdivision. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, that clears it up for me. Thank you. Mr. Walsh, you have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to first reading on September 16, 2025.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just going to move forward to the next presentation. So once again, good evening, Chair Doby and council members. Now we will go into the changes to Title 19 related to middle housing and unit lot subdivisions. Policy question tonight is, should the City Council adopt the proposed text amendments to the Federal Way Revised Code Title 19 related to the cleanup of the recently adopted middle housing standards? First standard to be adjusted is in 1905-005 in the definitions. So we're going to be adjusting the middle housing definition to be a bit clearer. It will now read as middle housing means duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhouses in the SE or RS zones, cottage housing, and courtyard apartments. And next, we have changes to 19-110-010, affordable housing. Rather than now reading non-single family and middle housing subdivisions, it will now read multifamily projects in the beginning there. And then moving on, new projects involving 25 dwelling units or more that are not proposed along with a subdivision for detached dwelling units or middle housing are required to provide affordable dwelling units as part of the project. So the red sections there will be added. And then in 4, instead of single family, it will read subdivision projects for detached dwelling units or middle housing. And again, the adoption process, same as the last adoption process I outlined for you with Title 18. SEPA determination was in early August. The Planning Commission public hearing was August 20th. LUTC tonight, and hopefully moving to first reading on September 16th and second reading on October 7th. Once again, the criteria is that these proposed amendments are in line with our code, consistent with the applicable provisions of the comprehensive plan, bear a substantial relationship to public health, safety, or welfare, and are in the best interest of the residents of the city. Policy options: adopt the proposed ordinance for amendments to Title 19, do not adopt the proposed ordinance, and provide direction to staff. Recommendation by the Planning Commission was to approve, and Mayor's recommendation is also option 1, approval.
Could you back up a couple where you have the dots after the change of the words? Right there, excuse me, go forward. Okay, so when you go for detached dwelling units or middle housing are required to provide affordable dwelling units as part of the project, what's the rest of it say?
Sure, I can pull that up for you. The reason that I did not provide the rest of that section is because the point that we are trying to focus on for the amendment here is that the new projects involving 25 dwelling units or more that are not proposed along with a subdivision also includes 4 detached dwelling units or middle housing. So that is the part that we are trying to clarify there.
And the reason I'm asking the question is, it came up once, because we require, and it's not a bad thing, that you have affordable housing components part of these divisions. But could we set up something in there, or does it need to be in here where we say, in lieu of having these pieces of property, you can put money into a fund to pay for them, so the developer doesn't have to carry them for 50 years and somebody has to monitor it? Or am I asking the wrong question at the wrong time?
I mean, I don't think that this particular ordinance is within the scope of what you're saying, but however, the city's absolutely authorized to adopt essentially a fee in lieu of affordability by state statute. That is something that we could potentially address and council could approve.
Okay, well, okay, maybe we could get that on the docket to have that discussion in land use coming up, okay? Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion, Mr.?
Yes,
Oh.
go to the previous slide right before this one.
Okay.
Just wanna- Okay, middle housing means duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhouses in the SE or RS zones, cottage housing and courtyard apartments. So cottage housing and courtyard apartments are, that's in different zoning than the SE or RS zones?
So this is specifically meant to clarify when middle housing applies to townhouses. It applies to townhouses that are proposed to be located in the SE or the RS zones. So the main point of this change is to focus on when townhouses are considered middle housing.
This is a really thrilling one, requested by perhaps the legal office of the city, due to discovering that there was there's potential conflict between 2 of the definitions in our code. Essentially, one definition says, it says townhouses are multifamily, and then we have another definition that says townhouses are middle housing, and there's a problem with the way those 2 interact because they say essentially contrary things to each other. We're fixing that to clarify that townhouses are only middle housing when they're in these specific zones that middle housing is allowed. That's the rationale.
All right. In that case, I'll make a motion. I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the first reading on September 16, 2025.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to go to SPAR, Public Defender Grant Acceptance and Agreement. I don't see Mr. Davis, so I'm assuming Mr. Niven.
Not as much hair.
Keith, are you the one doing this?
I thought this, I thought
You're
the
going
same thing.
home, okay. Got it. I thought you were coming around to be our next presenter. Have a nice drive.
All right. See you, Keith.
Good evening, council members. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for this one. I'm filling in for City Administrator Brian Davis. So this is the proposal here is for SPAR Grant Acceptance and Agreement. The genesis for this is that due to Washington State Supreme Court decision and then some subsequent legislative reaction to that, there are certain types of crimes, specifically simple possession of controlled substances,
that the city now has to fund defense of. Previously, those were funded by the county. Because of the fact that the city's now has to shoulder an additional financial burden in terms of paying for public defense of these crimes where it didn't before, the State Office of Public Defense is now offering grants to municipalities under the SPAR program. This is one of those. It's for $30,000. If council determines to accept the grant, then we'll have $30,000 to pay for those services in addition to our general fund. If we don't accept the grant, we still have to provide those funds. We're just not getting any funding from the state for it. So that's the simple version. The options here are to either approve the grant or not approve the grant and give direction to staff, and the mayor recommends that we do accept the grant.
Okay, Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah, has the city done anything to determine how far this 30,000 will go and what the actual delta will be between this and the real need?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that myself personally. I can ask. I doubt that this amount fully covers those defense services. I suspect that it's a relatively small portion of them, but I'm just speculating. I need to confirm to be able to answer definitively.
I'd be interested to see that because I know we spend about 50,000 easily a month on defense. It comes through in the vouchers, so I'd be curious to know how far that 30K will go.
Yeah, in this particular type of case it's a very small portion of the required public defense things that the city does fund. So yeah, I'll find out that information.
Can this grant only be used for that particular charge?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. Did all cities get the same amount offered, or was that based on population?
That's another great question that I do not know the answer to, and I can also figure that out before council.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, do we have a motion?
I move to forward option 1 to the September 16, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll go to item K, which is a progress update of the Sound Transit projects in Federal Way. Information only.
Good evening. So I'm Ken Smith with the Public Works Department, the Sound Transit Liaison for the city, here to provide an update on Sound Transit activities within Federal Way. For Federal Way Link Extension for north of 317th, they are continuing work on communications testing, electrical testing, live wire testing adjustments, and mostly a lot of closeout items. So it's a lot of testing right now. For the Federal Way Link Extension Traffic Mitigation Project along South 272nd Street, work is ongoing, which includes preparation for their installation of the new traffic signal, installation of curb, gutter, and sidewalk. That's also related to the road widening and the new signal. For the city center area, they have set the official opening date for Federal Way Link Extension for December 6th. Pre-revenue operations have begun, which includes train testing all over the corridor. So if you drive by and you see a train, they are actively testing them. I've seen them quite a bit today. Final restoration of the parking lot for Orleans is complete. Restoration of haul routes directly adjacent to the station is underway, which includes final paving. So I believe right now they're set to do that within the next couple weeks. Final sidewalk, landscaping, and roadway work for the new 22nd Avenue, South 318th, and South 317th is ongoing. What they expect to be done with all the flat work, which is basically the roadways, the sidewalks, curb and gutters, by mid-September. Station and new garage extension is also primarily focused on testing. So a little ancillary facilities related to fire protection, as well as like the whole station in general is getting testing, including the garage. The operations and maintenance facility south, I don't have any significant updates. We're still continuing to work with them on their development agreement. And for Tacoma Dome Link Extension, similarly, no significant updates since the last meeting. Sound Transit is continuing to advance their design for their preferred alternative and has done some preliminary geotech and site investigation work along the area for that preferred alternative. And I'll answer any questions.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. At the chamber meeting last week, Mr. Constantine was there, who's in, Sound Transit CEO.
Yes.
And he said a few things that I was concerned, well, I was surprised at. One of the things he said is that crime is reduced in cities when light rail comes to town. Do you know anything about that? He didn't offer a chance for people to ask questions, and I don't know how that would work, because we're expecting
Right.
up to 30,000 more people in town, so you would expect some kind of an increase just because of that.
I could certainly look into it. I don't know any specifics. I mean, there may be some sort of study or that he's getting his information from, so I could try to find out.
I would love to know where he got that information from. And he also talked about, this not being the end of the line, and that, that it's going to go on to Tacoma, but isn't it like 10 years before we could potentially see the line being built?
That's
To
very
Tacoma?
likely, yes, that we might have another 10 years before I believe their projected date is 2035 for Tacoma Dome Link extension.
And my last question is, I've noticed that when some trucks are leaving the Sound Transit construction area, they're not covered. The load is not covered. And I thought that was a state law that all loads had to be covered.
I don't know the specifics on where they were going, so it is dependent on where they take the trucks and then the speed they are going and what's in the back as they leave.
So
I can look into that.
I would be interested in that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, thank you very much. Let's see, is there anything else, number 4 or other? Seeing none, future meetings will be October 6th at 5 PM here in the, Councilman McDaniel, I didn't see your light.
Yeah, well, I thought that was on 5, not 4. I do have I'll be sending out another email today about potentially adding something to LTAF for next meeting, and
Okay.
then I'll provide you with some updated information on that.
Okay, please do that. Okay, number 6, we'll adjourn. Thank you.